The sun set over the bustling streets of Lagos, casting a warm orange glow over the city. The sound of drums and laughter filled the air, mingling with the scent of jollof rice and suya. It was a night like any other in this vibrant city, where tradition and modernity blended seamlessly together. But amidst the chaos and beauty, a young man's heart beat with a different rhythm. John's heart beat with a sense of purpose, a sense of duty. For he was an Okoro, a member of a family that had shaped the city's history for generations. And tonight, his family's legacy would be put to the test. The sun was setting over the small village of Ekpoma, casting a warm orange glow over the dusty streets. The villagers were busy preparing for the evening, some cooking dinner, others chatting with friends. Amidst the tranquility, a stranger appeared, dressed in tattered clothes and carrying a worn-out backpack. He looked like a typical village boy, but there was something about him that caught the attention of the villagers. The stranger, who introduced himself as John, was soft-spoken and humble. He asked the villagers about the local farmhands and laborers, inquiring about potential work opportunities. The villagers, always willing to help, directed him to the local farm owner, Chief Okoro. As John walked towards Chief Okoro's farm, he couldn't help but notice the curious glances from the villagers. He smiled to himself, knowing that his disguise was working perfectly. After all, who would suspect a billionaire businessman like him to be dressed in rags and pretending to be a poor village boy? John worked hard on Chief Okoro's farm, earning the respect of the villagers. He kept to himself, but his kind nature and willingness to help won over many hearts. One person who was particularly taken with John was Chief Okoro's daughter, Nneoma. She was a beautiful young woman with a quick smile and a sharp mind. John found himself drawn to her, but he knew he had to keep his true identity hidden. As the days turned into weeks, John settled into the village life. He learned about the local customs and traditions and even helped with the farm work. The villagers began to accept him as one of their own, and John felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. But little did he know, his life was about to take a dramatic turn. Nneoma was busy in the kitchen, preparing dinner for her family. She couldn't help but think about John, the new farmhand. She had noticed how hard he worked and how kind he was to everyone. There was something about him that drew her in. As she chopped the vegetables, she glanced out the window and saw John working in the farm. She couldn't help but smile as she watched him laugh with her father. John looked up and caught her eye, and Nneoma quickly looked away, feeling a flutter in her chest. John, on the other hand, had noticed Nneoma watching him. He smiled to himself, feeling a spark of attraction. He knew he had to be careful, though. He couldn't let his true identity slip, not now. As the sun began to set, John finished his work and headed back to the village. Nneoma was waiting for him by the well, a jug of water in her hand. "John, I brought you some water," she said, smiling. "Thank you, Nneoma," John replied, taking the jug from her. "You're very kind." Nneoma blushed and hurried away, leaving John feeling intrigued. He couldn't help but wonder if Nneoma might be the one he was looking for. That evening, Chief Okoro called John to his hut. John arrived, wondering what the chief wanted. "John, my son," Chief Okoro said, "I wanted to talk to you about something. You're a hard worker, and I appreciate your dedication to the farm. I was thinking, maybe you'd like to stay with us for a while longer?" John was taken aback. He hadn't expected the chief to offer him a place to stay. "Thank you, Chief," John replied. "I'd be honored to stay." Chief Okoro smiled. "Good. I'll show you to your quarters." "And John?" "Yes, Chief? You're welcome to join us for dinner tonight. My daughter Nneoma is an excellent cook." John smiled, feeling a sense of belonging. "Thank you, Chief. I'd love to." As John followed Chief Okoro to his quarters, he couldn't help but feel that he was getting closer to finding what he was looking for. But little did he know, his true identity was about to be put to the test. John showered and changed into some clean clothes that Nneoma had lent him. He felt a bit nervous as he walked to the Okoro's compound for dinner. He had been looking forward to this all day. As he arrived, Nneoma greeted him with a warm smile and led him to the dining area. The table was set with a delicious-looking meal, and the aroma of jollof rice and suya filled the air. Chief Okoro welcomed John warmly and invited him to sit down. Nneoma's mother, Mrs. Okoro, was also there, and she smiled at John as he took his seat. The dinner conversation was lively, with discussions about farming, business, and life in general. John found himself opening up to the Okoros, sharing stories about his experiences as a farmhand. Nneoma listened intently, her eyes sparkling with interest. She couldn't believe how charming and down-to-earth John was. She had never met anyone like him before. As the night wore on, John realized that he was having the time of his life. He felt like he had known the Okoros forever, and they had welcomed him into their family with open arms. But as the evening drew to a close, John couldn't shake off the feeling that he was living a lie. He knew he had to be careful not to get too close, not yet. But his heart was already getting involved, and he wasn't sure if he could control his feelings. After dinner, Nneoma suggested a walk under the stars. John agreed, and they strolled through the village, enjoying the cool night air. The stars were shining brightly above, and the sound of crickets provided a soothing background noise. John and Nneoma walked side by side, their footsteps in sync. As they walked, they talked about their dreams and aspirations. John found himself opening up to Nneoma in ways he never thought possible. He felt like he could be himself around her. Nneoma, too, felt a deep connection with John. She sensed that there was more to him than met the eye, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. As they reached the edge of the village, John turned to Nneoma and smiled. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "I've really enjoyed myself." Nneoma smiled back, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "I've enjoyed it too," she replied. John's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Nneoma. He felt a strong urge to take her hand, to tell her how he really felt. But he hesitated, unsure of what to do. Just then, Nneoma's phone rang, breaking the spell. She apologized and answered the call. As she talked, John couldn't help but wonder what the future held for them. Would he be able to keep his true identity hidden? And what would happen when the truth finally came out? Nneoma finished her call and turned to John, apologizing for the interruption. "I'm sorry about that, John. It's just my sister calling to check in." John smiled and they began walking back to the village. As they strolled, Nneoma noticed a necklace around John's neck. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to the pendant. John's hand instinctively went to the pendant, a small gold watch with an inscription. "Oh, it's just an old watch my grandfather gave me," he said, trying to play it down. Nneoma's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Can I see?" she asked. John hesitated for a moment before handing over the pendant. Nneoma examined it closely, noticing the inscription, "To my dearest, forever yours." "Who's the dearest?" Nneoma asked, looking up at John with a smile. John's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected Nneoma to notice the inscription. "It's just a phrase my grandfather used to call my grandmother," he said, trying to sound casual. Nneoma looked at him skeptically but let it drop. As they continued walking, John couldn't help but think about his past. He had left Nigeria years ago, determined to make a name for himself. But now, he was back, and things were getting complicated. As the days passed, John and Nneoma grew closer. They would spend hours talking, laughing, and exploring the village together. John found himself falling for Nneoma, but he knew he couldn't keep his true identity hidden forever. One day, while they were out on a walk, Nneoma mentioned that she had seen a newspaper article about a wealthy businessman who was looking for a wife. John's heart skipped a beat as he realized that the article might be about him. "Nneoma, what did the article say?" John asked, trying to sound nonchalant. Nneoma thought for a moment before replying, "It said that you're a billionaire businessman looking for a simple, traditional wife. But I don't believe it. You're not like that at all, John." John's heart sank. He knew he had to tell Nneoma the truth, but he was scared of losing her. Would he be able to reveal his true identity and risk losing the woman he loved? Nneoma's words hung in the air, and John's mind was racing. He knew he couldn't avoid the truth forever. Taking a deep breath, he decided to confront the situation head-on. "Nneoma, there's something I need to tell you," John said, his voice steady. Nneoma looked at him curiously, sensing that something was amiss. "What is it, John?" she asked. John took another deep breath before speaking. "Nneoma, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not just a farmhand." Nneoma's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't interrupt. John continued, "I'm actually a billionaire businessman. I've been looking for a genuine relationship, and I wanted to see if people would like me for who I am, not just my wealth." Nneoma's expression changed from curiosity to shock. She looked like she had been punched in the gut. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. John sighed, feeling a mix of emotions. I was scared, Nneoma. I didn't know how you'd react. I wanted to see if you would like me for who I am, not just my wealth. Nneoma looked away, her eyes welling up with tears. John could see the hurt and confusion in her eyes, and it broke his heart. Nneoma took a few moments to process the revelation. She felt like her whole world had been turned upside down. John, the man she had grown to care for, was not who she thought he was. Why are you telling me this now? Nneoma asked, her voice still shaking. John took a step closer to her. Because I care about you, Nneoma. I want to be honest with you. I know I shouldn't have lied to you, but I was scared of losing you. Nneoma looked at John, searching for answers. She saw the sincerity in his eyes, but she was still hurt. I need time to think, she said finally. John nodded understandingly. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, waiting for you. Nneoma turned and walked away, leaving John standing alone. He knew he had taken a risk by revealing his true identity, but he hoped that Nneoma would see the sincerity in his actions. As Nneoma walked back to her village, she couldn't help but wonder what the future held for her and John. Would she be able to forgive him and accept him for who he truly was? Days turned into weeks, and Nneoma didn't reach out to John. He gave her the space she needed, hoping that she would come to terms with his true identity. John continued to work on the farm, throwing himself into his work to distract himself from the ache in his heart. He knew he had taken a risk by revealing his true identity, but he couldn't regret it. He had been honest with Nneoma, and now it was up to her to decide what she wanted. Meanwhile, Nneoma was torn. She cared deeply for John, but she felt betrayed by his lies. She didn't know if she could ever fully trust him again. One day, as she was walking through the village, she saw John working in the fields. Their eyes met, and for a moment, they just stared at each other. Nneoma felt a flutter in her chest, and she knew she still had feelings for him. Nneoma decided to take a walk in the nearby woods, hoping to clear her head. As she walked, she stumbled upon John, who was sitting by a stream, staring at the water. Hey, John said, looking up at her. I didn't expect to see you here. Nneoma sat down beside him, and they sat in silence for a while, watching the water flow. I've been thinking, Nneoma said finally. I don't know if I can forgive you for lying to me, but I do know that I care about you. I want to get to know the real you. John's heart skipped a beat. I'd like that, he said, smiling. As they talked, Nneoma realized that she was willing to take a chance on John, to see if their relationship could work. But just as things were starting to look up, a surprise was waiting for them. As Nneoma and John were talking, a sleek black car pulled up to the stream. A woman with long, curly hair and designer clothes stepped out, looking out of place in the rural setting. John, darling, she said, striding towards them. I've been looking all over for you. John's eyes widened in surprise. Amanda, what are you doing here? He asked, standing up. Amanda smiled, her eyes flashing with amusement. I heard you were slumming it in the village, and I had to see it for myself, she said, her gaze flicking to Nneoma. Nneoma stood up, feeling a surge of unease. Who is this? She asked John. Amanda is my acquaintance from the city, John replied, his voice tight. Amanda laughed, a cold, tinkling sound. Acquaintance? John, you're being modest. We're practically engaged. Nneoma's eyes narrowed. Engaged? She repeated. John quickly intervened, explaining that Amanda was just a friend from his past, but Nneoma wasn't convinced. As the tension between them grew, John realized he had to clear things up once and for all. But would he be able to convince Nneoma that his feelings for her were real? John took a deep breath and turned to Amanda. Amanda, what do you want? He asked, his voice firm. Amanda's smile faltered for a moment, but she quickly regained her composure. I want to know what's going on here, she said, her eyes darting between John and Nneoma. I thought we had an understanding, John. John shook his head. We don't have anything, Amanda. I'm sorry if I led you to believe otherwise. Amanda's face turned red with anger. You're going to regret this, John. You're going to regret choosing her over me. Nneoma stood tall, her eyes flashing with anger. I think it's time for you to leave, she said, her voice firm. Amanda sneered at Nneoma. You're just a village girl, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, she said, before turning and storming off. John let out a sigh of relief. I'm sorry about that, he said, turning to Nneoma. Amanda can be persistent. Nneoma looked at him, her eyes searching. What's going on, John? Who is Amanda to you? John took a deep breath and began to explain. Amanda and I were in a relationship, or at least, we thought we were. But it was all about appearances and social status. I realized I didn't truly care for her, and I ended things between us. Nneoma listened intently, her expression softening. I see, she said. And what about us? Where do we stand? John's heart skipped a beat. I want to be with you, Nneoma. I want to explore this connection between us. Nneoma smiled, and John's heart soared. I'd like that, she said. As they shared a tender moment, John knew that he had made the right choice. He was ready to leave his past behind and start a new life with Nneoma. John hesitated, wondering who it could be. He glanced at Nneoma, who was watching him with a curious expression. It's probably just a business call, John said, trying to brush it off. But Nneoma's eyes sparkled with interest. Go ahead and answer it, she said, nodding. John sighed and pulled out his phone. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. Hello, he answered. John, it's your father, a deep voice said on the other end. John's heart skipped a beat. His father? He hadn't spoken to him in years. What's going on, father? John asked, trying to keep his tone neutral. I need to see you, John. It's about the family business, his father replied. John's mind was racing. What did his father want now? He hadn't shown any interest in the business or him for years. I'll think about it, John said finally. His father sighed. John, please. It's important. Meet me at the office tomorrow. John hesitated, unsure of what to do. But something in his father's tone made him agree. Okay, I'll be there, John said, hanging up the phone. Nneoma was watching him, concern etched on her face. Everything okay? She asked. John took a deep breath. It's my father. He wants to meet with me about the family business. Nneoma's eyes widened. What are you going to do? John shrugged. I don't know. I've avoided him for so long. But something about this feels different. Nneoma took his hand. Whatever you decide, I'll support you, she said. John smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude towards her. But he knew he had to face his father and the family business eventually. The next day, John stood outside the office building, his heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. What was his father going to say? John stood outside the office building, his heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. He hadn't seen his father in years, and he wasn't sure what to expect. As he entered the building, he was greeted by the familiar face of his father's secretary. Hello, John. Your father is waiting for you. John nodded, his throat dry. He followed the secretary to his father's office, his mind racing with questions. When he entered a moment later, John felt a mix of emotions. His father looked older, but his eyes still held the same intensity. John, his father said, standing up from behind the desk. It's good to see you. John nodded, unsure of how to respond. They hadn't spoken in years, and now his father wanted to meet. Let's sit down, his father said, gesturing to the chairs in front of the desk. John sat down, his heart pounding in his chest. What did his father want? I know I haven't been the best father to you, his father began. But I've been thinking a lot about my legacy and the future of our business. John's eyes narrowed. This was about the business. I want you to take over the company, his father said, his eyes locked on John's. John was taken aback. He hadn't expected this. I know we've had our differences, but I believe you're the best person to lead the company into the future, his father continued. John thought about all the times he had felt abandoned by his father, all the times he had had to prove himself. Now, his father wanted him to take over the company. John's mind was racing. Take over the company? It was a lot to take in. He had worked hard to build his own business, to make a name for himself outside of his father's shadow. I don't know, father, John said, trying to process his thoughts. I've built a life for myself, a business of my own. I'm not sure I'm ready to take on the family business. His father nodded understandingly. I know this is a lot to ask, but I believe you're the only one who can lead the company to greatness. Your mother would have wanted you to take over. John felt a pang in his chest at the mention of his mother. She had always been the one to mediate between him and his father. I'll think about it, John said finally. but I need time to consider all the implications. His father nodded. I understand. Take all the time you need. But know that the company needs you, John. John left the office building feeling overwhelmed. He didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to take on the challenge, to prove himself to his father and himself. But another part of him was scared of going back to the old dynamics, of being under his father's thumb. As he walked back to his car, he couldn't shake off the feeling that his life was about to change the course of his life forever. John's mind was still reeling as he walked into his own office. He couldn't believe his father had asked him to take over the family business. It was a lot to consider. As he sat down at his desk, he couldn't help but think about all the reasons why he shouldn't do it. He had built his own business from the ground up, and he was proud of what he had accomplished. Why would he want to give that up? But as he thought about it more, he realized that this could be an opportunity. He could take over the company and make changes, implement new ideas and strategies. He could make a real difference. And then there was the issue of his father. John had always felt like he could never measure up to his father's expectations. This could be a chance to prove himself, to show his father that he was capable. As John sat there, weighing his options, his phone rang. It was Nneoma. Hey, she said, her voice bright and cheerful. I was thinking about you and wanted to check in. How did the meeting with your father go? John took a deep breath and told her everything. Nneoma listened attentively, asking questions and offering words of encouragement. I think you should do it, she said finally. Take over the company, I mean. It could be a great opportunity for you to make a difference and prove yourself. John smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude towards her. You're right, he said. I'll think about it some more, but I think I'm leaning towards taking the leap. Nneoma's voice was full of excitement. I'll support you no matter what you decide, she said. John felt a sense of relief wash over him. He knew he had made the right decision. He was going to take over the company, and he was going to make it his own. But little did he know, his decision would set off a chain of events that would change everything. John's decision was made. He would take over the company and make it his own. He felt a sense of excitement and nervousness as he picked up the phone to call his father. Father, I've thought it over and I've decided to take you up on your offer, John said, trying to sound confident. His father was thrilled, and they arranged to meet the next day to discuss the details of the handover. As John hung up the phone, he felt a sense of trepidation. He was taking a huge risk, but he was ready for the challenge. The next few days were a whirlwind of meetings and introductions to the company's top executives. John was determined to learn as much as he could about the company and its operations. Nneoma was a constant source of support and encouragement. She had been thrilled when John told her about his decision, and she had promised to be there for him every step of the way. As John navigated the complex world of corporate politics, he realized that he had a lot to learn. But he was determined to succeed, for himself and for Nneoma. One day, as they were walking out of a meeting, John turned to Nneoma and said, You know, I couldn't do this without you. You're my rock, my confidant. I don't know what I'd do without you. Nneoma smiled and took his hand. You'll never have to find out, she said. I'm here for you, always. John's heart swelled with emotion as he looked at her. He knew that he was falling in love with her, and he couldn't imagine a future without her. But just as things were falling into place, a new challenge emerged. A rival company was making a hostile takeover bid for John's family business. The rival company's hostile takeover bid had come out of nowhere, and John's family business was caught off guard. The bid was aggressive, with the rival company offering a premium price for the company's shares. John's father was furious, feeling that the rival company was trying to steal the business from them. John, on the other hand, was more measured, recognizing that the bid was a serious threat that required careful consideration. As the days went by, the rival company continued to pressure John's family business, trying to convince shareholders to sell their shares. John's family business fought back, employing various defense strategies to ward off the hostile takeover bid. One of the strategies they employed was the poison pill defense, which would make the takeover more expensive and less attractive to the rival company. They also engaged in a proxy fight, trying to persuade shareholders to reject the rival company's bid. Nneoma stood by John's side throughout the ordeal, offering her support and advice. Together, they worked tirelessly to defend the business against the hostile takeover bid. The final showdown between John's family business and the rival company was intense. The rival company had made a last-ditch effort to persuade shareholders to sell their shares, but John's family business was determined to fight on. In a tense shareholders' meeting, the rival company's representatives presented their case for the takeover, while John's family business presented their defense. The shareholders listened attentively, weighing their options carefully. In the end, the shareholders made their decision, and the fate of John's family business was sealed. Would the rival company succeed in its hostile takeover bid, or would John's family business emerge victorious? The outcome was far from certain. The shareholders' decision would have far-reaching consequences for John's family business, and only time would tell if the company would remain in the family's hands. One thing was certain, however, John's family business would never be the same again. As the news of the shareholders' decision spread, John's family and employees anxiously awaited the outcome. Would they still have jobs? Would the company remain intact? The uncertainty was palpable. In the midst of the uncertainty, John found solace in Nneoma's presence. Together, they faced the future, whatever it may hold. The shareholders' decision was finally announced, and John's family business breathed a sigh of relief. The rival company had failed to secure the majority of shares needed for the hostile takeover bid. John's family business had successfully defended itself against the takeover, and the company would remain in the family's hands. The news was met with cheers and tears of joy from the employees and John's family. John's father was overjoyed, and he thanked John for his leadership and determination in defending the business. "You're a true Okoro," he said, his voice filled with pride. John smiled, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. He had played a key role in saving the family business, and he knew that he had proven himself as a worthy successor. Nneoma was beaming with pride as she congratulated John on his victory. "I knew you could do it," she said, her eyes shining with admiration. As the celebrations died down, John realized that this was just the beginning. He had a lot of work ahead of him, rebuilding and strengthening the company. But he was ready for the challenge. With Nneoma by his side, he felt invincible. The days that followed were busy ones for John. He worked tirelessly to rebuild and strengthen the company, implementing new strategies and initiatives to drive growth and innovation. Nneoma was a constant source of support and encouragement, offering her insights and advice whenever he needed it. As the company began to flourish, John's father started to step back, handing over more responsibilities to John. John's leadership and vision were instrumental in the company's success, and everyone could see the positive changes he was making. One day, John's father called him into his office. "John, I'm proud of you," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You've shown that you're a true leader, and I think it's time for me to pass the torch to you officially." John was taken aback, but he was also thrilled. He knew that this was a huge moment for him, and he was ready to take on the challenge. "I won't let you down, Father," John said, his voice filled with determination. His father smiled, knowing that the company was in good hands. "I know you won't, son," he said. "You're a true Okoro, and I have no doubt that you'll take the company to even greater heights." And with that, John became the new CEO of the family business, with Nneoma by his side to support him every step of the way. John's appointment as CEO was met with widespread approval from the company's employees and stakeholders. He was known for his innovative approach and commitment to excellence, and everyone was excited to see what the future held under his leadership. As CEO, John wasted no time in implementing changes that would drive growth and innovation. He invested in new technologies, expanded the company's product line, and explored new markets. Nneoma was a constant source of support and encouragement, offering her insights and advice on various matters. She was John's rock, and he didn't know what he would do without her. As the company continued to thrive, John's personal life also flourished. He and Nneoma's relationship continued to blossom, and they were inseparable. One day, John took Nneoma to the same spot where they had shared their first kiss. He looked into her eyes and said, "Nneoma, from the moment I met you, I knew that you were special. Will you marry me?" Tears of joy streamed down Nneoma's face as she said yes. John slipped the ring onto her finger, and they shared a passionate kiss. Their engagement was met with widespread joy and celebration, and the entire community came together to celebrate the union of two of its most beloved members. John and Nneoma's wedding was a grand affair, with friends, family, and dignitaries in attendance. They exchanged vows in a beautiful ceremony, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. As they danced at the reception, John looked into Nneoma's eyes and knew that he had made the right decision. He was exactly where he was meant to be. Years went by, and John and Nneoma built a life together. They had children, traveled the world, and continued to build the company into a global powerhouse. John's father looked on with pride, knowing that he had passed the torch to the right person. The company was in good hands, and the future was bright. And John and Nneoma lived happily ever after, their love growing stronger with each passing day. The end. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. We encourage comments and discussion in the comments section. Guess what? Another story is coming up in a few days. Do well to hit the notification bell to be notified, and do subscribe and give a thumbs up to like and encourage this channel, Evelyn Sampson TV. Feel free to share and invite your friends. Thank you once again for being a part of our storytelling journey.